Hello, and welcome to the Kessel Rundown podcast. My name is Ethan,
And my name is Hunter.
and we're doing things a little bit differently today. I'm leading it off. Hunter always gives these divinely inspired introductions, but here I am.
Truth be told, I just didn't want to lose my voice shouting in the mic again.
Yeah,
That's about it.
yeah. You gotta make the audio loud so it records right. So we are recording this on a Friday after 2 days after Kenobi episode 5 came out, or part 5, I guess as it's titled. Very, very, very creative names Disney's coming up with.
Mhm.
And Hunter watched it, as soon as it came out, as usual, 2 a.m.
Mhm.
I watched it that night after my wife had gone to sleep. I gotta tell a story because
Oh.
I encountered two heart-stoppingly terrible moments during this episode, and I'm not talking about general writing malaise from the Reva character. I'm talking about when my Wi-Fi cut out exactly at the moment that Vader and Reva started fighting. And that was the second time that it happened. The first time it happened was when Reva stuck her lightsaber through the blaster door and it almost hit Kenobi. And then the door opens and he force pushes Reva and my Wi-Fi shut off. Like the router just like boinked itself. I don't know what
Dude,
happened.
that's
My Wi-Fi,
funny.
I had to restart my router. It took me like 10 minutes to get the Wi-Fi back on. I get it back on. I watched another 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the episode, whatever. And then I'm like pumped. It's like 11:30 at night. I'm trying to be quiet, because my wife's asleep. And then the second time, the Wi-Fi goes out right as Vader is like getting ready, right after he like force stops her the first time. And I was like silently screaming at my TV, like trying not to wake anybody up. It was brutal, but I still enjoyed the episode, and I got to rewatch it back with perfect Wi-Fi the next morning. So we're all good.
Good, uninterrupted. Yeah, so this episode was very action heavy. I would say it was too lore heavy, like episode 3 was. We did get some good bits of Order 66 and Reva, her backstory. Finally, after 5 parts, I feel like her backstory should have been alluded to at least in episode 3 or 4. I feel like it's way too late to be learning everything about her right now, but we got some of that, but it was a very action heavy episode, but man was it filmed like dog water.
You
I
didn't
don't
like
know why
the
no,
setting
I
or what?
kind of everything. It kind of looks like they're on a high school stage production. It doesn't look good. None of it looks good for the budget they have. It looks terrible. Jabim looked terrible. I just want to get
Okay,
into
well,
my bad talkings of the episode before. I have very little complaints about this episode. But after we get into that, we can go into praises. But it just looked
but
like
Jabim is one.
Jabim. Yeah, why?
I have very little complaints
Man.
except for the overall vibe and setting of the show.
Except everything that it encompasses. No, but I also didn't like how their use of shaky cam throughout the whole series. It doesn't make
That's cracked me up, bro.
it doesn't make sense. It's like an early 2000s music video. The way they go in sideways, or like the way they walk toward a person, it's like someone has like they're just shaking the whole way, and it
Are
doesn't make
you are
sense
you talking
because
are you talking
what's
more
up?
about the Kenobi Mirage, like whenever he sees Anakin on Mapuzo and it goes woo like on his face? Or are you talking more
Well,
about like Vader stalking into the room to force choke Reva, and it like the cameraman is like running backwards? Which one are
not
you
that. I
referring to?
feel like whenever you're shooting shots like that as someone imposing as Vader, it kind of adds the effect from like someone running uh, to capture Vader walking. That kind of adds to the
Yeah.
effect. But whenever we first see the squadron of stormtroopers land on Jabim, and they just decide to jump up and down with the camera to show, it could have been a steady shot of like just showing of the army, but no, the
Uh-huh.
cameraman had to jump up and down on his like moon shoes and just like shake everything. And then the way that the as soon as Riva cuts open the doors and they flood in, the way that it's filmed, like it's just filming a whole lot of nothing. Like if
It's
you
kind of
showed
chaotic.
me,
Yeah.
yeah, if you showed me the two same scenes back to back, there would be no difference in what I saw that in that episode of like all the other different scenes that they filmed. It was just stormtroopers rushing in, Kenobi deflecting with his lightsaber. Stormtrooper rushing in, Kenobi deflecting with his lightsaber. It's like
Are you
I've
talking
seen
about
that.
episode 4 versus episode 5? Or are you talking about just like the
No,
3 different fight scenes they had in this episode.
I'm talking about part 5. Just whenever they cut in and they started all rushing in, it was
Right.
filmed very poorly. I feel like for a budget they have, it should be filmed more like a movie because it is a movie budget. And look at the Mandalorian; their fight scenes are filmed perfectly. It's almost crazy to how they film those fight scenes. Just looking back at episode 1 of the Mandalorian when they're invading that little old western town to find Grogu, it's filmed like so perfect. And then you look at this episode with all these legacy characters like Kenobi, you'd feel like they should be filming it correctly, but no, it's chaotic and it's all over the place. But those are my gripes on the episode.
Stay
Yet,
tuned for our next segment. Is Kenobi secretly a shot on iPhone commercial?
no, shot on iPhone commercials are a lot better than Kenobi. No, but do you have any gripes about the episode other
Man,
than
we're
how
starting
it's
off with the
filmed?
negative today.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I agree that the setting is a little strange. I noticed this on Mapuzo when they were essentially, it looked like they had just driven 40 miles east of LA up into the hills or something, and like
Very true.
started it like there was no effects or anything, and it just looked like a bland landscape. And then
Mm,
like the Vader Obi-Wan meeting on Mapuzo in episode 3, it was also like it was flat. There was no like the setting wasn't a character at all, if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
obviously you're never gonna get Mustafar, but and they wanted it to
Mm,
be a less like cataclysmic fight.
hmm
But in most other Star Wars fights, the setting plays a huge role in setting the tone. And the only way that
Yeah.
this setting and Mapuzo did it was that it was dark, if that makes sense.
hmm
So it was like in
It's a very good
obviously in
take.
Revenge of the Sith you have Mustafar where they're jumping in and out of lava. That's like the ultimate example. Phantom Menace, they're running through hallways trying to catch each other, like flipping off of catwalks.
hmm
New Hope, they're sneaking around the whole movie, and in both Empire and Return of the Jedi, like Vader disappears into the darkness, right?
Yeah,
But
it's it's like Vader's mind. Luke is like in Return of the Jedi when he's underneath the Emperor's throne. Whenever they're in that little space, it's kind of like alluding to Luke inside Vader's mind, trying to find him in the darkness and
right,
trying to bring out Anakin. But yeah, Huzo is just
so
it's just a mining quarry. Doesn't make
So
any sense.
Mapuzo is flat, but it does give us a little bit like, oh, it's dark and the lightsabers lighting up Obi-Wan's scared face, whatever.
Mm.
But this episode was even worse because it was like Riva and Vader's fight was epic, but it was on like flat clay. It looked like they were standing like a tennis court. You know what I mean? There was
Yeah.
no there was no sense of I guess no sense of there was no dynamism in the fight. You knew Riva was going to
Mm.
lose, which is great. Like it was awesome to see Vader go just complete domination on everybody.
Yeah,
But I thought they could have done better work with the setting in general.
I agree.
Yeah, it was like miniature Hoth, I guess. It was
hmm
like like the little fortress that they were in.
hmm
But it was like one big room at the back where the ship was, a hallway, and then a smaller room at the front where the control room was. That was it. That was the whole setting. It wasn't very complex.
No, it kind of brings back to episode 3 of the Jedi hiding place. It's kind of that little room in that big hallway. It's like I don't know. It's just do something more. Let's see the environment
Right.
react to how the fight is. But yeah, that's my bad talking of
Maybe
the
Disney's
show.
broke.
That's true. Yeah.
Maybe they blew their whole budget on all the special effects in Boba Fett.
Oh man. Yeah,
The lizard up the nose scene in episode 2 of Boba Fett was like
that did it. That was
that
it.
took their whole special effects budget.
They took
Now
all the
Vader
budget
fights on
from
tennis
Kenobi.
courts. Yeah.
That's funny. I do have one more thing to say, and I think we'll both talk about Riva on our own. But
Yeah, the Riva conversation is it's the whole
man,
thing.
the way she delivers her lines, I'll say this: the way she delivers her lines are just like this. Every single line starts with a explanation, whatever, however you say the word. I don't care. I'm in my Riva voice right now, but then it goes silent, just like this. If it's something else. and then it goes back up again. It's like she delivers every single line the same way, and it's it.
Right.
I ignored it throughout the whole show, but this episode it was crazy. Like everything she said was just like that. Whenever they capture Kenobi, she did a little bow. It's like, why are you bowing? It just doesn't make any sense.
What the best example of this? You're right, by the way. The best example of that is how she talks to Leia when she's interrogating her.
Oh yeah.
She's like, what does she say?
I hope you had
Tell
pain.
me.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so weird. Um, oh no, in episode one, um, what does she say? Like, we'll cut your limbs off. Then she goes, hands go first.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. The line delivery is terrible, and that's
Yeah.
nothing bad about Moses Ingram. It's just how it's written for her. I'm sure that like the line delivery on the script, it tells her to deliver it like that for some God knows what reason that we hopefully hopefully they explain why she said talks like that, or else like man, the people that wrote this script, they I who wrote this? Do we know who wrote the
Okay,
script?
so I do know the answer to that question. Are you talking about episode five? Because the
Just
first four
as a
episodes
whole.
had different writers than episode five. Episode five,
Oh.
which is perhaps the best written episode? Question
Hmm.
mark. Written by Andrew Stanton, who wrote, among other things, Toy Story.
Hmm.
He's like the big gun at Pixar. He wrote all
Oh,
those
okay.
early. He wrote Wall-E, Finding Dory, Finding Nemo, Toy Story movies, Bugs Life,
Oh wow.
all those. So
Andrew Stanton.
he's got a
Yeah.
history of writing really compelling stories and crafting like
That's good.
really multi-layered things that speak to both kids and adults. So maybe
Mhm.
that was the thought process behind bringing him in.
Yeah.
Um,
I think he nailed the flashback scenes.
yeah,
Those felt they were taken right out of Attack of the Clones. But we'll transition from the bad stuff. Let's start with the flashback scene where it starts. What did you think of that?
the flashback scene that it opened with to at Coruscant was crazy. I loved it. I saw first I saw the two buildings which we think might be like Padme's residence he's staring at.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm like, oh, where are we? Because I don't, immediately I'm not as good at like recognizing planets. But
Hmm.
as soon as they go back and I saw the little rat tail, I was like, oh boy, here we go. Um, and then he turned
Yeah.
around and I just like cackled. I was like, what's going on? He
Yeah.
looks so weird.
Yeah.
They didn't
He
do
looked a
any
little
de
weird.
aging at all.
No, no, they didn't. You know what? I'm kind of glad they didn't do any de aging because I think if they did, it would have taken me too far out of the story. Because the whole time I would have just been thinking that looks really weird, kind of like how we were watching Luke at the Mandalorian season 2 finale. Like
Right.
the impact was taken away because I was like, that dude looks like he's made out of rubber. He
Yeah.
doesn't look
Yeah.
real.
True. True.
So when I saw Hayden, I
Yeah.
saw, oh, there's wrinkles. That's okay. But that was just me though. I am perfectly fine that there was no CGI done to him.
It just I understand. I This is maybe a bigger conversation, but
Hmm.
this is why it's hard to retell stories and go back 20, 30 years in a timeline and use the same
Hmm.
actor. And it's because it ends up looking like a fan film, or it ends up
Yeah.
looking like some suburban dad playing Anakin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Because
get what you
Hayden
mean.
Christensen's 43. I don't know how old he is, but
He's aged. Yeah.
he's aged, right? As everyone does. So it just, you have to suspend your disbelief a lot. That's a term that
Hmm.
Tolkien used when he's talking about believing fantasy stories or like enjoying fantasy stories. Talked about suspending your disbelief, which basically laying aside your own internal logic, laying aside your cynicism. Well, that wouldn't work. Well, okay, of course it's Lord of the Rings, right? You don't need to keep saying that. So
Hmm.
you do that naturally when you view science fiction, when you view fantasy, when you read something like that. Star Wars just makes you do it even harder. Like you have to put your brain aside and like lock it away
Hmm.
sometimes because you're seeing these 45-year-old men who are supposed to be 19, and it just made me cringe a little bit. I don't know. That it took away from the enjoyment of the scene a little bit for me.
Huh?
Um on the first watch. On once I was like
Once you
got the
warmed up to
concept,
it, yeah.
yeah, I on my second, third watch it was okay. But first time I saw it, I was just laughing at Obi-Wan's hair and
Oh,
but the terrible wig, yeah.
yeah, the Jesus
But
mullet.
I will say that Hayden's movements look the exact same as he did as they did 20 years ago.
Hmm.
Clearly he hasn't, clearly he's been practicing, which it's a very heartwarming idea of Hayden Christensen in his garage or something by himself practicing his moves. Um, but
Yeah, I'm so
yeah,
glad they kept the prequel dialogue. Like kind of like
yes, the
the cringy
cheesy, yeah,
delivering. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
yeah.
cheesy dialogue, the way they deliver the lines. It's it's perfect. And it's perfect
Mercy
for
will not
people
defeat
that
an enemy, master.
exactly. And I can really see that Anakin in the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they capture his essence from Revenge of the Sith and Clone Wars. Somehow they captured both of those perfectly. And
Right.
Hayden, and I mean, it shows Hayden watched the Clone Wars. He said that he watched some arcs of the Clone Wars and Rebels to prepare for this role, and you can definitely see how he goes crazy on Obi-Wan. But going further into the flashback, he goes crazy on Obi-Wan. I mean, he's not. They're sparring, so he's not going in for the kill, but he kind of ignores his master's heatings and warnings. He's like, "Well, your want for violence is your undoing. Like a Jedi is supposed to protect, not kill."
Right.
And yeah,
And I guess we can talk about the whole flashback just all at once, just because it's mixed
that'd be
in. But
easier. Yeah.
yeah, it'd be much easier to cover it that way. Um, I think the flashback tied in really well to what
Oh, it's
Vader and Obi-Wan were
genius.
going through in
Yeah.
this episode. The way that they kind of cut it up into, I think it was four pieces that they cut it up into. Um,
Hmm.
but I was never like, oh no, we're going back here again. Like it was every time they
It
flashed back, I was
wasn't
like,
Boba
ooh,
Fett.
give me more.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't
Yeah.
the flashback to. It was,
The flashback
it
to.
was it was better than that. Um,
That's a great
so
name for
I
it.
thought, yeah, thank you. I thought, I would have appreciated it in episode 3 or 4, but
Hmm.
um, I really love that we got it. Period. I can't believe we did, and it was really special to hear Anakin's arrogance again in like a
Oh yeah.
new setting that we've seen Clone Wars and everything, but just any new content we get of like Prime Anakin is so great. And then we
And
have
this is before Attack of the Clones because he still has his hand.
right, correct.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're preparing for the war because Anakin says that thing about mercy won't defeat an enemy.
Hmm.
Seems like with that they're probably have some knowledge that they're about to have to go to war. Um,
Yeah.
but I really enjoyed and was also saddened watching Obi-Wan's reactions with him, um,
Hmm.
because he doesn't give him affirmation, um, except for he says
Mm.
you're a great warrior, Anakin, but he doesn't necessarily say, "Man, that was a really good move." Um,
Yeah.
he's just deliberately, trying to. He's being kind. Like Obi-Wan's really kind-hearted in his approach, and he really does view Anakin like a brother. Um, but as Dave Filoni said, Anakin needed more of a father than a brother. And
Mm.
he's like, "You're a great warrior, but you need to do this, this, and this better." And you just see Anakin's face fall, right? He just wants
Yeah.
affirmation. He wants the father figure to validate him. And he doesn't get that.
Wow. Yeah. I agree. I agree. I agree. So this, of course, this takes place before the business on Canada pneumonia, the before Brotherhood. So it's nice to see that a lot of stuff during this timeline is coming to life. That who knows what we'll get next from this little snippet of time.
Right.
But we move on from the flashbacks into Riva and Vader's introduction to the episode.
Riva!
Yeah. She's given the fifth brother. She's given the Grand Inquisitor's little badge. She becomes the Grand Inquisitor for a total of like 45 minutes, maybe.
35 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody updated the Wikipedia article on the Grand Inquisitor, and it shows like the Grand Inquisitor being the Grand Inquisitor from 19 BBY to 9 BBY, and then it shows Riva from 9
Uh-huh.
BBY to 9 BBY, and then it goes back to the Grand Inquisitor from 9 BBY to 4 BBY. So
That's
funny.
funny.
So like they gave her like 30 minutes of just satisfaction, and they ripped it all away.
Right.
I
It
found her
wasn't even like a
backstory to
full
be
day.
tragic. Yeah, exactly. Her backstory was deeply upsetting and very tragic.
Yeah. Can we? Okay. So I guess we're kind of jumping around a little bit here in terms of the
That's okay.
episode.
Yeah.
Riva's. We just need to talk about the Order 66 scene. Did you? I
Mhm.
thought it went a little far. What did you think?
Well, I think I honestly, when I was watching it, really, I didn't mind. That's a weird thing to say. It's just the only way I can say it. It's because we've come so desensitized to everything that we see. I really didn't register what had happened until after the episode when I was on Twitter, seeing what everybody was saying about it. I did see some people say that went a little bit too far. That's why there was a warning, of course, at the beginning of the episode. Uh, so yeah,
Right.
initial viewing, I didn't think anything of it, but as I was watching it, I think that some of the stuff could be left towards our interpretation. I think it was kind of crucial to see Riva being stabbed as a youngling because I mean we see throughout the series whenever she's told to bow before Vader, it's kind of like bringing up PTSD, and it's her just like that's why she looks so weird at the beginning of the episode whenever she's told to kneel because it reminds her of getting stabbed by Vader. I mean, I think it's very crucial to see those two timelines link up for Riva, kind of wrap her story up in a bow. But it's not over yet. We'll see where that goes. But what did you think? Did you
Yeah.
think it went a little too far?
Um. Well, keep in mind this was filmed and story was written and things were edited
Yeah, like
long
2020,
before the events of um,
Uvalde,
what happened in Uvalde a couple weeks
and
ago. Um,
yeah,
but watching it, a week or two after, they had to put that warning because it was like violently upsetting. And
hmm
it was just, I was like sick watching it. And I wasn't like, I got to turn this off. Star Wars has upset me to the point of no return. It wasn't their fault. It's just like, it was really hard to watch as an
yeah,
American, as a person who is, we've seen we are the like generation that has had to deal with school shootings. Um,
yeah,
and we've seen, I don't know, like 9 or 10 of these mass shootings in our schools since we've, like in schools in general, since we've been, in like middle school or high school. And so
yeah,
it was really upsetting in that regard, just remembering everything I just read, a couple weeks ago, and everything is kind of fresh on everyone's minds from Uvalde. But um, they didn't have to show it, but they
yeah,
did. They did, and I don't know. I thought it did a lot for Riva's character. I mean, it brought her from like a 0 to like a 40 out of 100, but it you know I say 0. I'm being a little harsh, but it did make me care about her a lot.
yeah.
And then when she died, I felt like Vader was like I was disgusted at how Vader treated her, if that makes sense. Like he was
Calling her
toying with her,
youngling.
and
Yeah,
he the way that he spoke to her and the way that he defeated her, there was no honor in that. Um,
no,
and I think that was the intention, was to make you be like sickened by this machine, this man machine
Yeah.
Vader. Like for you to come away from that being like he's really a monster,
Hmm.
and that's exactly how I felt. And I do have one question though: did she really get stabbed as a youngling? Because I thought that, from my point of view, the implication was that that was her nightmare playing out in real life, but she didn't actually get stabbed.
I'm honestly not sure about that. That could have been just her, like, yeah, like a nightmare sequence of like what she felt had happened to her whenever Order 66 happened. She did hide with the bodies, and I'm guessing that she escaped from the Jedi Temple after that. But she's probably was filled with such hate and revenge if she was stabbed as a youngling that, she didn't die. That's what Darth Maul did. That's what we see what the Grand Inquisitor did as well. Filled with such hate and rage that they just couldn't die.
Right. I
But
mean,
I'm
but
not sure.
as like a 9 year old though, I mean, wouldn't you be just more scared and upset and
Yeah, I'm
like
I'm looking it up right now, um, to see if she
my
was
point of
actually
view is that
stabbed.
she was not stabbed. That what really happened was similar to her vision,
Hmm.
but she somehow got out of the way of Vader and hid underneath the bodies. That's how she escaped. But she didn't actually get stabbed. Maybe she pretended to get shot by a clone or something.
Hmm.
But I thought the vision was her playing out her worst nightmare and the thing that
Yeah,
she's been
she
dreaming about.
resorted to being a youngling again and getting
Right.
stabbed. So what I'm reading right now is, when Darth Vader arrived at the temple, Reva and the other younglings assumed he was there to help, but became horrified when he started slaughtering them. That's scary to think about. Reva was able to survive by hiding under the corpses of other younglings as Lord Vader and the clone troopers continued. So yeah, I don't think, yeah, she wasn't stabbed. She just hid underneath the bodies of her family, the only family that she had, and then
Right.
she escaped. And then I know, there's rumors and talkings of a Reva series in the works, so we might get to see how that comes into fruition. That would be really cool. I would be up for that. I hope that her dialogue is written completely different, but I would love to see the Coruscant making that change from the Republic to the Empire and how the Inquisitors were started, and seeing it through this young, uh, force sensitive girl's eyes. I think that'd be an amazing series to start. And who knows if that's even a thing that's happening,
Right.
which I hope it is. I really hope it is. Kind of going off the track of Star Wars, speaking of spin offs, I just needed to get this out there and tell you, Ethan. But Game of Thrones, they're doing a spin off of Jon Snow, continuing his story after
Yep.
season 8.
Yep.
So I'm excited for that. Hopefully, we can do a Game of Thrones podcast as well whenever House of the Dragon starts coming out. But
Dude, I'm so
yeah,
excited for that.
I am too. It's awesome. We have all this stuff to talk about. So many shows coming out. Just in the next 6 months, man. House of the Dragon, Andor, Bad Batch. What else is coming out? Mandalorian in February. It's just it's
February, is that
packed.
confirmed?
Yes, February is confirmed for Mandalorian
Okay.
season 3.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot to talk about.
Yeah, a lot has happened in the last few weeks, I feel like.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So yeah, talking about Reva, is there anything else you want to talk about? Our favorite character of the show?
Um our favorite character. Um Man, I really enjoy the development. I even though
Hmm.
her I really like the way that she talked to Kenobi at the door, the blaster door.
Yeah,
And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in episode 6. I will just say that I wish she had died. And I
yeah,
felt like they developed her to the perfect point, and the opportunity was there just to have Vader just wipe her out. And that's it. That's the end of the Riva arc. But I guess they want to maintain the possibility of a Riva spinoff show.
yeah,
I mean, which I'm gonna watch out of compulsion, but not out of desire.
yeah.
So
We should get a Martez Sisters show from the Clone Wars. I'd watch that.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was kind of a letdown that she didn't die, just story pacing wise. I like the Reva character.
Yeah.
I love like Moses Ingram. She's an amazing actress, but I just feel like story wise, her death should have been right there. Who knows though? In episode 6, part 6, we might see something crazy, and that will eat our words. Hopefully, that's the thing. We say all this stuff, but for me, I hope that I have to eat my words after every episode that we see. Kind
Yeah.
of had
There's just not
to.
much time
Yeah.
left,
Yeah, there's not. Yeah.
There's only what is rumored to be 70-minute long episode in episode 6.
Yeah, and that's
There's
it.
only one episode. That's it for them to wrap up all these storylines. So it would have been great if they could have wrapped up Rivas and we could just focus on Obi-Wan getting Leia home to Alderaan finally. Um,
Please.
and I thought that was gonna be a one episode sidetrack thing to get his powers back, and then he was
Yeah.
gonna go do something else. But now
She's
we
a
have this whole
mainstay in the
Luke and
series.
Reva thing. Now we
Yeah.
have Leia to go back to Alderaan. Vader's tracking them probably. I don't know what Vader and the Grand Inquisitor are gonna do, but they're not gone. So the
Yeah.
most underwhelming possibility is just that we're just going to get a Reva Obi-Wan fight in Tatooine, and that'll be it. And Vader won't show up. Imagine how
Yeah.
disappointed you would be
Oh man.
if the series finale of Obi-Wan was just like Reva versus Obi-Wan outside the Lars homestead in the middle of the night, and Obi-Wan kills her in like 3 moves.
Man, yeah, I would be upset. And we can't put that at a possibility either, because this episode kind of wraps up what Vader said in A New Hope, where he was like, "When I left you, I was but the learner, now I'm the master." And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
he looks back on his past trainings and realizes that, oh, Obi-Wan used the bait and switch on me, and
Dude, he really did.
he did. He used
You,
the old Chewie was on another transport thing. That's immediately what I thought when
Somehow
I saw that
Obi-Wan
happen.
escaped.
Somehow Darth Vader returned. Yeah,
Yeah, I did.
that
I thought the Chewbacca thing as well. Do you want to
yeah.
just talk about like Vader and Obi-Wan's dynamic through this episode? Because I think the flashbacks played a big role in kind of constructing this master versus apprentice thing when we were left at the end of episode 3 feeling like Vader is definitely stronger than Obi-Wan right now. How can he say this in New Hope?
hmm
And
Yeah,
that
it's like
that gets
poetry.
reclaimed a
It
little bit in
rhymes.
this episode.
Yeah, like George said, it's like poetry. It rhymes. The way they intertwined the fighting to like, I love it whenever in the flashback Obi-Wan loses his weapon, and in the present we see that Obi-Wan gives up his weapon. Like there's other ways to fighting, and he proves that by basically
Right.
cementing his own escape when he tells Reva. He's like, "Hey, like we can team up, do this together." And Reva's like, "Okay, I'll give that a shot." And she gives Obi-Wan back. So like the people are saying they don't understand why um, Obi-Wan was put back into the tunnel after Reva already had captured him, but it's because Reva like wanted to
Was
have Vader
stupid
to
enough to
herself.
trust Kenobi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, Vader. Yeah, Reva is so blinded by hate and rage and revenge that it she doesn't really think things clearly. She doesn't think things through, and that's perfectly fine. It's just what the Sith do. They're just so enraged all the time.
Yeah, we in this episode we kind of see how Obi-Wan will become the wise Alec Guinness very shortly, right?
Hmm
That's one of the reasons I love this episode was because it really did reestablish him as this um I don't know, not omnipresent. He's not what he used to be, but like he's he's pretty powerful. He still
hmm
has those powers. He just had to unlock them a little bit. Um, and he's the only one in this episode that is able to see all the moving parts. He um, once Reva once he realizes Reva was a youngling, he knows what she's onto, and he's like, okay, you're hunting Vader. Let's hunt him together. And she pits him against Vader, or she pits her against Vader, convinces Reva, hey, let me go, and I'll lure him out, and then you kill him.
Yeah.
He's like, I promise it'll go great. I'm gonna escape, and then when I'm gone, you can just kill him from behind. It'll be great. And she's like,
Okay.
okay.
I
And
guess.
she's dumb enough to go along with it, or at least blinded, like you said, blinded by hatred. And
Mhm.
Vader is blinded by hatred of Kenobi so much that um he doesn't see the plan either. And it
Yeah.
works out for him fine because he disposes of Reva like she was trash. But
Hmm.
um but he could have caught Kenobi if he had been more aware.
Yeah, he couldn't sense
And
the other ship. He was just so. I don't think he was using his senses. I think he was just dead set on
right.
grounding that ship and just killing everybody on board. So when the second ship took off, I don't think he was like, oh, you know,
Right, and because of what he said at the end, we know that he didn't know that Obi-Wan was using Reva.
yeah,
And if he had known, if he had stopped in his anger and his lust
hmm,
for um, for revenge, then he would have realized that Obi-Wan is probably smart enough to figure Reva out, just like I have, which means that we better make getting him our priority and not like coaxing him out. Like their whole strategy
mm,
was to coax him out by killing other rebels. Just
yeah,
go get him. Vader, you go in there first thing. Because there was really no way Obi-Wan
mm,
could have escaped if Vader just landed and marched in. You know what I
that's
mean?
true. That's true.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, I think everyone was blind to the bigger picture except for Obi-Wan. And that's one of the reasons I like this episode.
and that's great storytelling. Great storytelling. I do feel a little bad about Wade, the brave pilot that we lost last episode,
Oh, come
episode
on.
4. They didn't say a word about him. Nobody was sad that he died. Like
Well, they
everybody got
devoted
off the.
half the recap to his death, and then he wasn't in. They didn't mention him in the episode at all.
It was so funny seeing all the survivors walk out of the ship and everybody celebrates. It's like,
We got her,
like,
yeah. And
we're missing one.
and
We don't see somebody like mourning him or anything, but
uh-uh.
it's like Wade just didn't matter, and that's sad, man. That is sad. Sometimes I feel like Wade.
we've all been Wade at one
If
time
you've
or
been
another.
Wade, like this video, subscribe. If you feel like Wade right now. Yeah, I feel like that was a little shitty. They should have. I don't know. There should have been justice. Let's start hashtag justice for Wade.
Justice for Wade, baby.
Justice for Wade. Man. Um.
Want to talk about Tala?
Yeah, we can talk about Tala. Her stupid sacrifice. I feel like if she wanted to take out some people, she could have thrown the grenade at them instead of,
Yeah, I guess that's true.
and Riva could
I
have,
didn't think about that.
stopped the
Yeah,
grenade from exploding.
yeah,
But it's just it's a part in the story that needed to happen. I feel like I was expecting Tala's death this episode, so it wasn't a huge surprise. I was more sad about NED-B biting the dust, but yeah, I feel like Tala's journey came to an end pretty fit. Is everything fit pretty well for her? What did you
yeah.
think
Ned
about
B
it?
was a Ned B was a pretty cool droid. We lost,
Yeah,
so rip to
cool
rip to
loader
him.
droid.
So I found the original, like one of the original writers of the first, I guess the first 4 episodes. He's not credited at all in the credits of this episode. Hassan Amini. He's um, wrote. He's uncredited, but he apparently helped write Gangs of New York, which is a great
Oh
movie.
wow, yeah, that's good.
Um, that's about where it stops. His other films, none of them are very like. Well, he
Well,
won. Let me see. He did win an Oscar, I think. Academy Award for Best Writing Adapted Screenplay for Wings of the Dove, which is a Helena Bonham Carter movie from the late '90s. I've never
Mhm.
seen that. Um, the rest of them, it's like Drive. I don't know if you remember that one.
Oh, Drive
Snow
with
White and
Ryan Gosling.
yes, Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh yeah, I remember that
Um,
one.
47 Ronin. You remember that one? I think that's
Ooh,
Keanu Reeves.
it is.
A lot of weird action movies that didn't get a lot of clout.
Yeah.
And like no TV credits. The Alienist, he was a writer on 3 episodes before that show was canceled after half a season. Uh, that's it. So I'm not quite sure where they got this guy thinking he was going to be this amazing writer. I don't know. Maybe he's one of those behind the scenes people.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, but
Yeah.
he has done an Ewan McGregor movie before, so maybe
Oh,
McGregor
that's
knew
good.
him.
They probably wanted the chemistry back, and they might have good
Yeah.
chemistry. But it's what everyone says, just give everything to Dave Filoni. Give everything to
Yep.
Dave Filoni, and it'll work out.
Yeah.
It'll work
At
out.
least there will be if nothing else, there will be a really clear continuity based vision.
Exactly.
You know.
I don't care about the story, man. Just have Dave hone everything, and I'll be fine, man. He is the next George. Dave Filoni, man. I can rave about him all day. He is George Lucas's Padawan. To put it like lightly, he's amazing. But Deborah Chow,
Well,
she's doing great on this series. I think.
she really is. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. She's killing it. She's killing it. But Dave Filoni,
Okay.
he just
I'm just gonna read off. I'm gonna read off the credits that Filoni has, and we'll just
yeah.
the best Star Wars content comes from this man. Um, The Mandalorian director, writer, executive producer.
Hmm.
Um, Book of Boba. I guess that doesn't help me make my point. Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew. He will be at least an executive producer and probably a director. He's definitely writing some of those episodes.
Yeah,
Um, Clone Wars. We know Clone Wars and Rebels. He's the
and
MC of all of that.
he was involved with one of the best shows of all time, Avatar.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
director, storyboard artist, and character designer for Avatar: Last Airbender. That's
man.
right.
Yeah, he's killing it, and yeah, I can't rave about Dave Filoni enough.
And
He's
he's like an animator. Like he's a really
hmm
talented animator. He was one of the head guys for King of the Hill that show. Um,
That's awesome.
I'm not
That's a
sure if he
native
wrote any
Texan,
episodes.
both of us. King of the
Right.
Hill. Awesome.
um. Anyways, so Bad Batch, Rebels, Clone Wars, Tales of the Jedi, which we'll talk about in a later podcast, but we're really excited for that.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're we're big fans of Dave Filoni here. The 3 episodes that he wrote and or the 3 episodes he directed, excuse me, for The Mandalorian. Um, the first episode, which is an all timer, I've watched it many times.
Mm,
Chapter 5, The Gunslinger,
mm.
which is another all time great episode, and then the season finale of season 2, The Jedi. That is a power. That is like, oh wait, no, that's season. Oh, chapter 13, The Jedi was Ahsoka's return. So that's 3 of
Yeah,
like probably the
and
4
yeah,
best Mandalorian episodes. So whenever this guy steps in, he gets it done. We're huge fans of Dave Filoni, and we wish that he.
yeah.
I don't know if he has enough time on his hands, but we wish that he headed up every project.
That's very true. And if it feels like this podcast is going off the rails, it is. whenever an episode of Kenobi isn't lore based, it's kind of hard for us to cover all the action because action's
Yeah.
action. We're lore people. We like to talk about the history of each planet, but whenever we're given Jabim looking like a soundstage, and we get
Right.
some really
There's
cool
not much to
action,
do with that.
but
Yeah.
yeah, we don't have a lot of background lore theories and not a lot of news coming out. So we're kind of just going over this episode off of character beats, which is funny because a lot of people are talking about the action, but no, we're talking about
Oh, while
character
we're on
arcs.
the subject of character beef, Mace Windu, we have. Did you have the same thought as me whenever they opened the lightsaber box, which we haven't talked about yet? The big crate full of lightsabers and Jedi robes that had apparently been discarded as Jedi made their way through the path
Hmm.
to parts unknown to disappear, and which really sad. They had to give up the Force, right? Give up
Yeah.
their whole identity. Um, I thought I saw Mace Windu's lightsaber in there, and I just didn't. I didn't know if anyone else thought that. I haven't seen that anywhere. Maybe it was
Hmm.
just me, but the silver one on the
Yeah.
far right of the box looks a lot
Yeah.
like his.
I was looking. Do you have a picture of that? I can look at it as well. But I was looking for a lightsaber that looked like something from the OT or the prequel trilogy, but the closest thing I saw was an all black lightsaber that kind of reminded me of Qui-Gon Jinn's,
Yeah,
but nothing else that I really saw. But yeah, I think, of course, Samuel L. Jackson was to return as Mace Windu. This could be a good, like, little soft setup for Mace. See how the
no,
audience reacts.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
I also agree. Let's not do that. But
He's
he's
dead.
gonna
Like
be
I
in
get
Tales
it.
of the Jedi anyways.
I get it. No
Let's
one ever
just
really
stop
dies,
it.
but can we? He got his arm cut off and he got thrown out of the window by the Emperor of the freaking galaxy. Can we not just say, "Oh, that works. You're dead." Like I don't know.
Mhm.
That seems like enough for me.
Yeah, because we said it back in our unreleased episode 3 podcast,
Oh boy.
but Mace Windu is the epitome of how the Jedi were wrong, and killing him off is like it needs to happen for the Empire to take control. He's the physical representation of the sins of the Jedi, and when he's killed, it's kind of like okay, the Jedi are gone now. So bringing him
Right.
back would undo a lot of Episode 3. And people were
So
saying that Mace Windu was encased in that amber stuff back in Part 4, but I don't think that's
that's a
true.
lot of
Yeah,
work.
he
They
was
would have
not.
had to go all the way down to like the lower levels of Coruscant and grab his
Yeah,
one-armed body and like bring it all the way up.
yeah, I
That
think
just
it's just
seems like a
rotting
lot of work.
somewhere.
Man, I don't. I found the Arabesh translations from the wall. That's
Oh, nice.
the
Yeah,
so they
so when Obi-Wan
basically can't.
arrives, he sees a wall of like Arabesh, right? And he
Right.
decides to read it, and you know, a lot of stuff we
And
can transcribe.
we hear him whisper, the light fades, but it is never forgotten. That's what he whispers. You
Hmm.
can barely hear it, even with your volume all the way up. That I love that saying. The light fades, but it's never forgotten. I think
Hmm.
that's very poetic. That's nice, but that's not the main part of this. There's a lot of someone did the translations. A lot of legends Jedi that have been decanonized a long time ago. Their names might have also been on the wall in Mapuzo. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Does this ring a bell? Raganda Ismarin, um,
No.
Tiberius, not Tyrannus,
Tyrannus.
Tiberius, Corwin Shelvey. Yeah, that's about it.
I
Those
think
are the
these are
names.
before my time.
Jin Altus. I don't know. A lot of like 80s and 90s era
Hmm.
legends Jedi that are not even in anyone's minds anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Some writer, obviously we've heard all the stuff about the Kenobi writers don't actually read Star Wars. They haven't watched the Clone Wars. Well, apparently they read way more Star Wars than the rest of us because neither of us have ever heard of these Jedi that apparently were name dropped in the middle of this episode. Can we just roast Bail Organa real quick? I forgot about that.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. He's like, I know we promised no communication, but your silence worries me. What? What is that? What do you mean?
if
It's
if
just
there had been a limit, he would have said like, I know we said no communication. Uh, but I figure like 3 weeks, like we said 3 weeks, right? But it hasn't.
mhm.
It's probably been what, like a week? I don't know. It hasn't been that long.
No,
I
I
don't know
think it's
how
been
long
less than a
that they
week.
were. I don't know how long they were in. Like he was in the back to tank on Jabim. I have no idea, but yeah, it can't have been more than couple weeks max.
Yeah, I was
But I
thinking
don't know.
it's been like either 2 or 3 days
Yeah, I
in
don't know. Leia
total.
hasn't changed clothes, so
Yeah, I don't think it's been that long. I just can't believe that I know we promised no communication, but your silence, it worries me. Well, you shouldn't have said no communication.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
That doesn't
Uh,
make any sense. You
yeah,
know,
I
Obi-Wan is a
know.
man of his word now. He said, like,
I know we
what?
promised no communication, but I'm just gonna put this out into the universe with no regard for safety. I'll go to Tatooine to watch over the other Jedi. Did I mention his name is Luke and he lives with Owen and Lars and on a moisture farm? Like, you want to just give away the whole plot of Episode 4? Like, come on, what are you doing?
Yeah, that wasn't very smart, but it leads up to episode 6. It leads up to episode 6. But yeah, not a lot to talk about with the rest of the episode, other than the Reva fight with Vader.
Vader
Vader.
pulling the ship back was so
Oh
sick.
yeah, how did I forget about that?
I mean, the whole Vader sequence with Reva, with he's just toying with her with one lightsaber. It's he doesn't even
hmm
take his own lightsaber out. He takes hers. It's
No, it's
so
beneath him.
demoralizing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beneath him. And then
And
we get a shot of whenever Vader. You know, this is they probably didn't intend to do this, but whenever Veda, dang, can't talk.
Veda,
Whenever
he's from
Veda,
Boston. His Darth Veda.
when Veda takes the two lightsabers, he kind of looks like Ahsoka. He has the two short bladed lightsabers, and I
Uh-huh.
just like I saw it and I was like, oh, that's Ahsoka. That's Ahsoka's stance. That's Ahsoka's lightsabers. But yeah, it was really cool seeing him toy with Reva, with Veda toy with Reva. It was really sick. Him using like the Force, kind of like the Matrix, kind of pushing his hand up and pushing her back, and he wasn't even
Uh-huh.
breaking a
Oh,
sweat. Dude was
I
just
love the
enjoying it.
music and the movement with him, like the this is where our complaints about Jabim come in, because I'm pretty sure the entire scenery was CGI'd. So it made it look like a
Yeah.
video game when he was like that. The quick cuts of him turning her lightsaber with his hand made it look like a video game to me. And I think that
hmm
was because the background was CGI'd. Um, but man, the ability to like when she turns on the second blade and he basically like catches it in his hand in a way, like it goes through
Yeah.
the gap in his hand. He
hmm
is dominating her like in a way that it's kind of hard to watch. It's kind of hard. You're like, ugh, I feel really
Yeah.
bad for Reva.
Just get it over with
Um,
already. Stop
yeah,
toying with her.
just kill her, bro. Like, just take care of her. But
Yeah.
this isn't the first time that Vader has faced an assassination attempt from an Inquisitor. Um,
hmm
So he's in the comics he does a few times, so he knows how to handle this. He saw it coming and he disposes of her pretty easily.
Yeah. Yep. And it sucks that Vader knew the whole time that she was a youngling. He knew who she was the whole entire
Yeah,
time, and still let her get her hopes up and even become Grand Inquisitor. Just, he's evil.
she got
he
played. He
he is evil,
he
man.
orchestrated that whole thing. He was patient with his like he stuck the knife in and
Yeah,
twisted it. You know what I mean?
that was a
He didn't
that
just
was a
catch her
10-year
in it
bit.
in the act, and he didn't just catch her in the act and haha, I'm gonna kill you now. It was like, I've known about this for I don't know,
10 years.
years. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I've been using it so I can hurt your feelings even more before I kill you. Like, oh my
yeah.
gosh,
Probably
dude.
when he found her, he was like, "Oh, this is a youngling that I let live in the
Right.
Jedi Temple." So yeah. He Vader. He's evil, man. He's evil.
Um, yep. So I guess the only I mean, unless you want to just like we can just nerd out more over the Force Unleashed move that Vader uses. Um, but the only really other plot point there is the reintroduction of Luke at the very end.
Yeah.
We see um, we see Luke Skywalker laying in bed. He's dead asleep. I mean, it's the classic like kind of cliffhanger, but not really.
Hmm.
Um, and the music builds as they zoom in on Lars homestead, and then we get this shot of Luke asleep,
Cuts.
knowing
Yeah.
he's gonna be in the next episode. We think my thought
He
is
has
that
to be.
that Obi-Wan's gonna kind of battle Reva so that she can't get to him.
Hmm.
Um, because remember when we meet Luke in A New Hope, he doesn't really have any sort of inkling that he's special. He doesn't have any
Yeah.
experience with the outside world, right? So that's got to be preserved. So
Hmm.
I don't know how they're gonna shake that out.
Well, we'll have to see next week. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. What are your predictions for our final episode? Just before we go.
So my predictions are kind of jumbled up because I haven't really thought of a lot of it yet. But I believe that Obi-Wan and Vader are gonna fight. I don't know where they're gonna fight, but I believe there's gonna be a fight. They promised us two fights. We're missing one. Finale's coming up, so
Are we?
there has
Because
there has
they
to be a
might have
fight.
they might have just meant Obi. They all they said was Obi-Wan and Anakin are going to square off twice, and they did on Mapuzo, and they did in
Well,
the flashback. So
Kathleen Kennedy did say that this is going to be the rematch of the century, and I haven't seen the rematch of the century yet, so
yeah,
we'll see.
no, thanks,
I definitely
Kathleen.
think, yeah, I definitely believe that Vader will be back next episode. In regards to Luke, I think that Riva, of course, is going to beeline it to Tatooine and capture. And how they're going to do that, I don't know. Honestly, I don't have a lot of predictions for this last episode. It's so hard predicting a finale. I can predict the whole season, but when it comes to the finale, I can't think of anything. So we'll just I'll just have to see come next Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I don't
What about
really.
you? Do you have
I don't
any
think.
crazy theories?
I don't think canon will allow for Riva and Luke to have any sort of meaningful interaction,
Mm-hmm.
and unless there's some lame mind wipe thing, which
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
some people were thinking about that could happen with Leia. I hope that doesn't happen. That's a really Deus ex machina way to like tell a
Mm-hmm.
story, you know. Can we just like have the story have integrity on its own and don't try and
Yeah.
like force in your fan service and your like awesome fight scenes and then have to wipe people's memories at the end. Like that's so lame. So I
Mm-hmm.
really hope they don't do that. Um, what I think Obi-Wan's gonna have to fight Riva somewhere in the desert near the homestand, near
Mm-hmm.
the homestead, Lars homestead, to keep Luke safe.
I
Like
agree.
she's gonna be just over the ridge
Kind of like
from the
Maul.
house. Yeah, yeah, just like he fights Maul in Rebels.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
we'll have to see. I'm excited for it.
so I don't know. I that's what I'm thinking. I don't. I think Leia gets. Hopefully, this is what I said about last episode too. Hopefully, it actually happens. Hopefully, we have more action spread out instead of we. I don't know if you realize this. We spent the entire episode in like a 2,000 square foot compound in Jabim. Like we didn't move.
Yeah.
We had one scene on the bridge of the destroyer, and we had the flashbacks, but we didn't really have any concrete story development
Mm-hmm.
happen outside of Jabim. So I would love some like two different storylines coming together in different planets. Do something creative, man, because this is like it's gotten a little stale with the soundstage settings and stuff.
I agree. I agree. Well, I think that we should start wrapping this up. We're heading on in an hour. I know you have date night, so
Do have
I
date night.
appreciate
Let's
you
go.
squeezing in everything for this little podcast. But yeah, until next week. may the force be with all of y'all. Next week finale. Hope we know we don't know if it's the finale. We know that Ewan McGregor, he at Celebration, he said can't wait for episode 6, and then 7 and 8. He could have been joking, but let's hope he wasn't.
I mean, I think it's done. I think it's the finale, but we'll see. I hope we get 7 and 8 like a Stranger Things, and they just drop it on us at one time in the middle of
that
the night, and we get to watch them.
that would be crazy. Well, it's a pleasure talking to you as always. I can't talk. I can't wait to talk about next week with you. But,
Yes,
it's
sir.
next week. So thank y'all, everyone, for listening to the Kessel Rundown podcast. I've been Hunter. That's been Ethan. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, just listen to it some more. Bump us up a little bit. But yeah, thank y'all so much, and may the force be with you.